till 3 o'clock. Well, temperatures have risen among Times Radio listeners following those discussions. They may rise further as we discuss the decision by the International Criminal Court to seek arrest warrants for Benjamin Netanyahu and the leader of Hamas over alleged war crimes. The US President Joe Biden criticised the application for the warrants against Benjamin Netanyahu. Let's hear what he said.
We reject the ICC's application for arrest warrants against Israeli leaders. Whatever these warrants may imply, there is no equivalence between Israel and Hamas. And it's clear Israel wants to do all it can to ensure civilian protection. But let me be clear. Contrary to allegations against Israel made by the International Court of Justice, what's happening is not genocide. We reject that.
So it should be said that neither warrant has yet been granted. An application has been made by the Director of Prosecutions, effectively, the International Criminal Court, for warrants. Let's speak now to Arsen Ostrovsky. He's an Israeli-based international human rights lawyer. He's also Chief Executive of the International Legal Forum. Welcome to the show, Mr. Ostrovsky.
Thank you.
Tell me what your reaction is to the International Criminal Court, the application for an arrest warrant against members of the Israeli government.
Look, I think yesterday was actually a very dark day for justice. The decision by the prosecutor, which has been condemned not only by the US administration, but by 10 Downing as well, was quite frankly an egregious and unconscionable perversion of the law that will only reward the terrorists and the rapists of Hamas. Now, there is no circumstances on this planet, none whatsoever, in which the genocidal terrorist group of Hamas and the democratic state of Israel can ever be compared. And quite frankly, to draw such a moral equivalence as Karim Khan has did is repugnant and grotesque.
So you're right that Joe Biden has stood with Israel on this, and so has Michael Gove from the British government. He accused the International Criminal Court of double standards. But it's an interesting, it's a difficult and interesting point, isn't it? That because the International Criminal Court has issued an arrest warrant against President Putin effectively during the Ukraine war, there are some people who say the International Criminal Court shouldn't take action until a war is over. But having set that precedent with President Putin, given some of the allegations being made against Israel, the International Criminal Court would argue, well, we have to take action at least to issue a warrant.
Well, I don't think that's necessary. I mean, first of all, taking aside the merits of the case, of which I would argue quite forcibly are quite baseless, the IDF, I think, has gone really to quite extraordinary and unprecedented lengths to abide by the rules of international humanitarian law and avoid harm to Palestinian casualties, or to Palestinian civilians, I should say, in Gaza. But moreover, there is really a very serious question here with respect to even the very jurisdiction of the court. Remember that Israel is not a signatory to the court. The court ought not to have any jurisdiction over the state of Israel, nor are the Palestinians, for that matter, a state under law. But in addition to that, the court itself, it operates under the principle of complementarity, which is sacrosanct to its very operation, meaning the ICC is a court of last resort. It only applies in circumstances where individual national governments do not have an independent, a free and open judiciary and ability to investigate themselves. That is not the case in Israel. Israel has an open, independent, and quite vibrant judicial system. There are investigations that are already on foot. And in fact, Karim Khan himself, when he visited Israel short time after October 7th, towards the end of last year, had actually commented on the fact that Israel has many trained lawyers and a respected legal system. So that in itself ought to have put a stop to even the mere consideration of these proceedings going any further.
That's right. It is the case that the International Criminal Court is a court of last resort, and it does allow national governments to make their own investigations through their independent courts if they have them before you turn to the International Criminal Court. Why do you think Karim Khan has gone ahead with this application for an arrest warrant? He is the prosecutor that you referred to, and in fact, I gather he was due to visit Israel and cancelled only when this announcement was made.
Well, that in itself is quite a fascinating side to the story. His team, Karim Khan, should have actually been visiting Israel next week, where he was scheduled to have high-level discussions with the Israeli government, including on steps that the IDF is taking to abide by international law and to minimize casualties and so on. His team was meant to have arrived yesterday, in fact. However, Israel had only understood that they would not be coming when they did not board the plane. And instead of coming, Karim Khan instead decided to issue his statement on TV. And I believe it was perhaps, I think, CNN at first instance, if I'm not mistaken. Now, that in itself ought to also question his priorities and whether, in fact, it is the law and the quest for justice, as he claims, motivating him, or other political motivations.
Arsen Ostrovsky.